Hello everyone, I'm Anushree, the AI and ML lead of DSC, SIES GST. So today we are going to view the setup and configure a cloud environment in Google Cloud, ChallengeLab. Okay. So kindly go through the instructions given in the lab carefully. Here are several tasks that are provided to you that you have to complete in this particular lab. You have to create all the resources in US East 1 region and US East 1B zone by default unless and until something else is specified in the instructions. There are also a few other standards that are provided which are common for all challenge labs. Here's an overview of the system that you have to design in this challenge scenario. Kindly go through it carefully. Now let's get started with the first task. Let's start our lab. If you have the subscription, use the use subscription option, or you'll get an option called use your credits. So do the needful. So the first task is create Development VPC manually. We are given the name of the VPC that we have to create and the two subnets. So let's get started with it. Navigate to VPC networks and then open the VPC network. Here we are provided with the name of the VPC that we have to create. Just copy paste the name. In subnets, click on custom and no subnet. Select the region as US East 1. Those are the default regions that are provided to us. And the IP range is also given. Now click on Add Subnet and then create the next subnet. That is the management one. Okay, the network is now created. So let's check our progress. Moving on to the second task. Now we have to create a production VPC. All the details are given. Kindly use the given details. Create your cloud shell. Now we have to copy the deployment manager configurations file. The region to US East 1 and save the file. Moving back to the cloud shell, now we have to create the production VPC with the configuration files that we have just received. Okay, the production VPC is created, so let's check our score. Okay, great. Let's move on to the third task. Now we have to create a Bastion host with two network interfaces, one connected to the development one and the other connected to the production VPC. Go to compute engine and then VM instances. Click on create instance. To use the N1 standard 1 instance, so configure the Bastion host accordingly. Networking tab, add the Bastion tag. Click on add network interface. Okay, we have the two network interfaces with the following sub-networks. One is the Griffin Dev Management, one is the Production Management. So we have the Dev one over here, Griffin Dev VPC, and the next one is with the subnet of Production. Click on Done. So we have the two network interfaces. Now click on Create. Okay, the VM instance is now created. Now let's set up some firewall rules. Again, go to VPC networks. Click on firewall. create firewall rule. We have to create two rules, one for the Development VPC and other for the Production VPC. So let's first of all create one for Development VPC. Create the next firewall rule. Let's check our progress. Okay, the assessment is completed. Now let's move on to the fourth task, and we'll create and configure the Cloud SQL instance. So now navigate to SQL. Click on Create Instance and choose MySQL. For the purpose of the lab, set a simple password, but in real life scenarios, kindly set a strong password. Okay, our SQL instance is now successfully created. Let's connect it using Cloud Shell. You can find the option here to connect using gcloud. Enter the password that you previously created. Now to prepare the WordPress environment, copy the instructions that you have been given here. These statements create the WordPress database and also a user. Let's check our progress. Okay, so now let's move on to the fifth task. We have to create a Kubernetes cluster. It must have 2 nodes. The standard is specified and also the naming convention. Okay. engine, go to clusters, click on create. The default node pool and set the number of nodes as 2. Move on to nodes. Set the configuration for the machine, that is N1, and the machine type is selected. Networking tab. Set the network as Griffin dev. The node subnet as dev WP. That is the WordPress. Now, since all the configurations are done, click on create. Kubernetes cluster is created successfully. Now open the Cloud Shell. I'm going to prepare the Kubernetes cluster and twerk a few parameters and set up some conditions. First of all, we have to copy the files for the Kubernetes. WordPress environment file, you have to modify the username, that is that username and password that has been provided to you before. So the username is WP user and then the password is Stormwind rules. The file. Successfully received the credentials for the cluster that we created, and now we have to deploy the configuration to the cluster. Let's check our progress. We have the command here provided to create the key that we have to add to the Kubernetes environment. So copy the command. So we have successfully set up our Kubernetes cluster. So now let's move on to creating the WordPress environment. WordPress deployment file, we have to replace the SQL instance with the SQL instance that we created in the previous tasks. To get the name of your SQL instance that you have created before, go to the SQL option in the navigation menu. Click on the instance that you have created. Here is the connection name displayed of the SQL instance. Copy the connection name and change it in the WordPress deployment file. Save the changes. Now we have to create the WordPress deployment. So the deployment and services are successfully created. Go to the Services and Ingress tab. You can navigate to the external endpoints to check the connection. Okay, so the connection is successful since you can view all the options on the screen. Let's check our assessment. Okay, we have successfully deployed it. Now we have to enable the monitoring. We have to create an uptime check for our WordPress deployment site. Go to the Uptime Checks, click on Create New. The protocol used will be HTTP and the resource type will be URL. In the host name, the address given here, that is the address of your WordPress site. Just include a slash. Click on test. The test has been successful. Click on create. Let's check our progress. Okay, so we are at the last task of the ChallengeLab. So we have to provide access for an additional engineer. Let's do that. Go to I am an admin. Click on add. Remember, to be added is provided over here, that is the username too. Copy the username and paste it here. Adding the role, go to project, click on editor, click save. The policy has been updated, so now the second user will be getting access to the project. So our assessment is completed. You can check the banner over here. The assessments are scored and completed. Okay, so congratulations. You have successfully completed your third quest, that is set up and configure a cloud environment.